To those of you in China, Australia, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, wherever you might be, good evening to all of us here in California, Europe, and elsewhere. My name is Heng Sure. Today is Friday, August 8th. We are back after some summer travels to America's East Coast and South. Delighted to be back in the storytelling seat to be able to share with you the stories of Master Empty Cloud in his picture biography. So, I want to say, 如果各位你们想听普通话，我们有义工很发心，你的软体那个软件那个右下角，你们有没有看到这个 interpretation 有没有？哪里有 Chinese 就可以了哈，可以听到。And if there are those of you who would like to hear a Vietnamese translation of my words in English, there will be a link in the chat box which will take you to the Vietnamese translation. And I want to say thank you to the kind-hearted volunteers who make my words available in Vietnamese. All right, today our fearless corresponding secretary, Chun Yu, is going to be our Dharma requester. So I'm going to start by ringing the bell 3 times, making 3 half bows, inviting you to join me, and then Chun Yu will request Dharma. 好了，那我们行三问心礼. Here we go. First bow. Second bow. And third bow. Okay, Chun Yu, if you'd like to request Dharma, please go ahead and do it now.
阿弥陀佛，恭请大德僧听，为此法会集一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye Allahudi samyao samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alai三藐三菩提心。
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Okay. Thank you, Chun Yu, for the Dharma request. Be happy to accept. We'd like to acknowledge the Chochenyo Ohlone people who practice their spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation here on their ancestral land for tens of thousands of years. Today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. 就说我们恭敬承认，就这种欧龙尼人是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Here we go. The sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万里国中，共训其法界和平，利益报贪而后得。Done. That's all our protocol for beginning our lecture. And thank you for your patience as we begin. Well, we have a large group here. I was afraid that after my being away, people would just forget about us. But no, in fact, everybody, the word is out, and we want to say hello to our friends in Belgium and where else? In the Gold Coast of Queensland, in Poland, in Vancouver, in Malaysia, in Boulder, let's see here, that's in Ukiah, in Hong Kong, in Los Angeles, in Santa Clara, Alameda, Saratoga, where else? Heilongjiang, Montreal, Singapore, San Jose, Portland, Oregon. Where else here? Hey. All right. Where else? Okay. We have friends here with us in the Berkeley Hills in Northern California, in City of 10,000 Buddhas, in Union City in the Gold Coast, New York City, Singapore, Los Angeles, St. Petersburg. Okay, there we go. Taipei and Mesa, Arizona, Calgary, Alberta. Calgary, Alberta, welcome. Let's see here. Oklahoma, Alameda, Virginia, Colorado. All right, Bill is back. Okay, let's see here. Ukiah, 还有什么地方？有台北，有内蒙古包头、黑龙江、辽宁、江苏、西安、北京、宿徽。Let's see here， 那不是，就是安徽宿州，就是浙江兰海，山西宝鸡，安徽淮南市，黑龙江、河北、深圳、北京，宿州、镇江。北京、包头、呼和浩特，浙江。Lots of Inner Mongolian friends here. Okay, 珠海、哈尔滨、辽宁、黑龙江、洛阳跟江苏，一定是东北人多。哎呀，你看 ，more Manchurians here than anywhere else, no doubt. Okay, I hope my volume is good. People can hear me. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. Okay, all right. Jensen is here from Indonesia. Hey, here's the story. I've been on the East Coast studying banjo and learning how to bring the Buddha Dharma to our ears in more creative ways, keeping us awake and focused. That's the idea. It's a fangbian, and it's a useful one. But I'm back now, and we'll be here in California for a couple months before heading back to Australia in October, and looking forward to being able to focus these 2 months on the life of Master Empty Cloud and the Avatamsaka Sutra. Indeed. Now, as people know, Master Empty Cloud lived to be 120 years old. In that long a time, especially with someone as active and as eventful as his life was, there's a lot of stories to tell. Master Shenhua, our teacher, divided up those 120 years into 200 stories, and then got an illustrator to draw a picture for each one. Now, the format, the size of the page, one story per page, really limited the amount of information that Shifu could give. And sometimes the stories require details, but there just isn't space. So some of the events got shortened inadvertently. Tonight is one of those. Now, what you do in that situation is you go to the written Nianpu, the autobiography in Chinese, which has not been translated completely yet. So with the help of the Nianpu, I'm going to fill in the blanks tonight, because the details of this story are unbelievable. I mean, you have to believe them given the source, but they are just absolutely gobsmacking, mind-boggling. What our teacher went through in order to stay alive. So people will say, oh, once you're enlightened, it must be wonderful. Everything is very smooth and just ideal, kind of like a paradise, right? And certainly our grand teacher's life was not that, something other than that. And I won't editorialize any further. I'll just let you hear the stories and you decide for yourself. Here we go. Tonight's episode, it is 1905. He is 66 years old. It is the 31st year of the Guangxu Emperor's reign period. And he's on his way to Penang through Rangoon, from Rangoon to Penang. You ready? 回安备粮传戒弘法受障病柳动化定如师至绵高晚邦接待李金塔打船赴冰城登岸备检验有意隔离于山人解放柳公以要独之不死得民人救至极乐寺并抽讲妙法莲华经 Okay. Oh man, this is brief to the point of what? The master returned to the monastery with provisions. He transmitted precepts and the Dharma flourished. Later, he contracted malaria when he was in Southeast Asia, and at Liudong Willow Cave instructed Dharma Master Dingru still suchness. Proceeding on to Burma, he was received by Upasaka Gao Wanbang. After paying his respects to the Golden Stupa, he took a passage to Penang by boat. Passing through the health inspection upon disembarking, all the passengers were quarantined on a distant hill. Although everyone was subsequently released, the master was left to die from the poisoned medicine he had been given. His life was saved by a native of Fujian province. The master then went on to Jile Ultimate Bliss Monastery, where he recuperated and lectured on the wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra. Could we get some details, please? This is extremely brief, and somebody's trying to poison him? Excuse me 1 minute, I'll be right back. So how does it happen that after someone is enlightened, after he's celebrated as one of the most famous monks of his age, he is still susceptible to poison? Is it jealousy? Could that be the problem? I want to hear the story, don't you? I mean, here's the illustration. This looks like, oh, this is the precepts. Okay, the precept hall. 大乘宝殿. For a clue as to what could be going on, let's look at the verse. That often helps. Shifu uses the verse to fill in more information than he can fit into the prose. It goes like this. 一一存心颇狠毒，人本未死，有剖腹，起义大德佛呵护，虽夫毒既有若无，虽夫毒既有若无. All right, here we go. The doctor, a barbarian, harbored strong hatred in his heart, wanting to cut open the stomach of living patients. But the Buddha protects greatly virtuous monks. Although the master swallowed poison, it did him no harm. Okay, well, that's a little more, but still. Who's the doctor? How did he get his hands on Master Empty Cloud? All right, we will start here. So the master returned to the monastery with provisions. We have to fill in the backstory, which is our teacher was mistreated while on a pilgrimage with another monk, Jiachan, and he was refused admission to a monastery and suffered greatly after having been dragged through the water for an entire day, hanging onto the gunwale of a boat so that he wouldn't tip it over. His feet were cut, he was chilled to the bone, he was hungry, and he got no help from the local monastery, which was operating as a corrupt nepotism type place that didn't see any benefit from letting in a needy monk, even though it was Master Empty Cloud. So with that kind of treatment, which is not the Buddhist method, the Buddha set up the method of monasteries that were open to traveling monks, if you qualified, if you were a real bhikshu. So he made a vow on the spot. He said, I'm going to teach by example. I'm going to set up the kind of monastery that we need. I need to find a place to do it and the strength to bring it about. So with the help of local lay people, he found a monastery that had bad feng shui, which might be why it was abandoned, and fixed the feng shui magically, moving a rock that 100 people couldn't move. He moved it with 10 monks. And then going out and down in Yunnan province, following conditions, found people who were willing to contribute to the building of the monastery. Came back with what he needed and a bunch of new disciples who saw him and decided to take refuge with him, recognizing who he was. And sure enough, rebuilt the monastery, transmitted precepts there, explained sutras there, and now it was flourishing. So that vow was accomplished. Well done. So then he starts walking, and he went out to a place called Wild Man Peak, Wild Man Mountain, Yirinshan, and got sick, got malaria. And malaria is just this miserable fever where you can't, it's from being bitten by mosquitoes. And he had a fever, and he couldn't keep any fluids in his body. Just an awful disease, and it's very hard to get rid of it once it gets in your system. And he met a monk called Ding Ru who took care of him. But then it was time to move on, and he decided to keep going south on to Burma. And a wealthy and respected Buddhist layman, Mr. Gao, took him in and showed him around Rangoon. Where did he go? He went to Dajin Ta. What is Dajin Ta? Take a look. Here is the Dajin Ta. Ooh, my goodness. We've looked at some of these pictures before. This is called Shwedagon. It is in Burma, in Rangoon, and it's one of the 7 wonders of the world, they say. It's absolutely spectacular monastery. Many levels, and certain levels only Sangha can go up there. And it's been built there for several centuries and is truly considered to be something that protects all of the planet Earth. It's a very powerful power spot on the planet. Just incredible vibes at Shwedagon Dajin Ta. Yeah, you can see what it's like there. Smaller stupas all around. We did 3 steps, 1 bow on that space there, getting our hands and heads very dirty in the process, but it was just amazing. Truly amazing energy at Dajin Ta. There we are. So Master Empty Cloud was there. Master Hua, Shifu's been there. Here it is. Yeah, so that is Shwedagon, Dajin Ta, the great golden pagoda. And now was the time for him to go to Binchang in Malaysia, which is an island up in the northwestern corner of Malaysia, not that far from Thailand. Okay, at this point, we're going to move off of the picture biography and go over to the Nianpu. Now, you're going to have to put up with me reading my funky Chinese. I'll read it slowly. And I realize that not everybody, there we go. Okay, excellent. Not everybody, I'll go take a look. Yeah, this is Richard Hunn's version, Charles Luke. We'll go to page 94. Let's see what is told here. Sorry for the scrolling. Hold on to your stomach there. Yeah. Make you dizzy, huh? Scroll, scroll, scroll. Okay. Yeah. Charles Luke, there are issues here. Cut Shifu out. That's why Shifu didn't recommend that we use this, because it was, yeah. Okay, Jizu Shan, there we go. Here we are. Okay. Right there. All right. Here it is. 到阳光，高居士全家及龙华寺建念信愿等道街，欲高家被记犹待曰： 妙老和尚常念师苦行几十年，未知消息。今闻师来神喜，今有讯来，欲毁汤山，修宁德归山云。敛日培有大金塔，参观各圣净壁。告辞，空老人急于回国也。高居士送上川，并电冰城几乐寺接传。Okay, stopping right here. All right, so what does it say? Let's take a look at to see, here we go. When I reached Rangoon, Upasaka Gao, with all his family, Superintendent Xing Yuan, and the monks of Longhua Monastery, were at the railway station to meet me. Okay, he was met with honor, in other words. He was respected, revered. People knew who he was. I stayed at Upasaka Gao's house, where I was treated with great honor. He said, "The Venerable Master Miao Lian has always thought of your austere life over the decades, but never received any news from you. He was most delighted to hear you're going to visit here and wrote to me, telling me he was returning to China to repair Guishan Monastery at Ningde in Fujian. He came here recently. I accompanied him when visiting Shwedagon and other holy sites for a few days, after which he returned to the monastery to await you, lest you return to China quickly." Okay. Upasaka Gao accompanied me to the boat and telegraphed Jile Monastery to send some monks to receive me. Okay, that's where we stopped. Back. Okay, here's where the trouble begins. 川道夫因船中有病已死者，宣其大限，既要船上人，在远处山上受检验也。前与人上山，上入遮盖，一人日历夜雨，每日发米1小碗。萝卜2，自猪食，医生来每日看2次。7日人去一半，10日人都去尽，徒留我一人。心焦急，病日加重，一行其苦，餐不能进食。到18日，一来，另一静物，无人居，心习之。OK， 不用解释，大家看得懂哈，听得懂吗？ Okay, I don't think I have to translate into Mandarin. There is a translator. So everybody should probably get the Chinese is readable, even though my pronunciation is wicked. But here we go. So, Upasaka Gao accompanied me to the boat and telegraphed Jile Monastery to send monks to receive me. Should be good, right? All good at that point. But the ship arrived from Rangoon to Penang, and somebody on board died from an epidemic, one person. So they raised a yellow flag while the ship was still in the harbor, and all the travelers were quarantined on a distant hill where 1,000 people were simply disembarked, no shelter, exposed to sun by day and rain by night. And boy, is it muggy in Penang. When it rains, it just thunders like mad. Every person got food, a bowl of rice and 2 carrots that you cook yourselves. So the Malaysian government simply dumped the people out and said, "Oh, somebody on your boat was sick, you go over there. Don't come into our port." A doctor came twice a day to examine them. Within a week, half the people had gone. 3 more days, everybody else, except who? Master Empty Cloud. The scabby monk, the skinny monk, was left. Pay no attention to him. He's probably got no money. It says I was very impatient. That's not what the Chinese said. The Chinese says I was really upset. I was seriously ill and felt miserable. Eventually, I could no longer eat. On the 18th day, the doctor came and said, move to an empty house. I was very happy to be there. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Danger, danger, danger. Why? 有一老人孙氏问之，谓泉州人，应喊曰：此方是兵人将死者，乃令助之，以为破腹之辈。我收名望极乐寺，老人动念曰：我取药与你吃。交来神有茶一碗，吃了2天略好。老人告我曰：医生来听我在外面咳声，你即起，振作精神，拿药与你，你不要吃。医生来，果如言，但以药开水，破令师，无奈强施之。已去，老人来问药事，我说已经吃了。老人竟曰：难活了，糟糕，明天即来生蛙。我给点药你吃，望佛足佑你。次早，老人看来，我坐地上，正眼不见人。老人抱我起，满地是血。老人又拿药来吃下，即为我换衣洗净地。Are you ready? I asked the old watchman there some questions. He said he was a native of Quanzhou. He then sighed and said, this room is for people who are about to die. You were ordered to move here as a post-mortem will be necessary. When I told him I had come to visit Jile Monastery, the old man was moved. He said, I'll get you some medicine. He then prepared a bowl of shenqu, which he gave me to drink, and after taking it twice, I felt slightly better by the following day. He said, when the doctor comes again, as soon as you hear me coughing, get up and try to be in high spirits as best you can. If he gives you medicine, do not take it. So what he says is fake energy. Fake energy. Don't look sick. Get up and be energetic and do not drink the medicine. As warned by the old man, the doctor actually came just as he had said, and after mixing medicine and water, he forced me to swallow it. As I could not refuse, I reluctantly drank it. After the doctor left, the old man was alarmed and said, you're not going to live much longer now. Tomorrow, he will come back to dissect your body. What the Chinese says is he's going to cut into your stomach. I gave you medicine hoping the Buddha would protect you, he said. The following morning, the old man came. I was sitting on the ground, but I couldn't see anything, even though my eyes were wide open. He helped me to stand up. He saw that the ground was covered with my blood. Okay. It's not so easy being a patriarch. He washed my clothes. 换日，汉日，别人吃了昨天的药水，不等断气就开刀了。你不该死，你有灵业。 9点钟，医生来，我做科生，你装神气些。使至一来，见我指一指，笑笑而去。问老人曰：他笑你不该死耳。我告意高居士送我些钱，请你帮忙送点钱给医生，放我出去。寄取40块给老人，20块以谢照顾之意。老人曰：我不要你的钱，今天医生是红毛人，不可以说。明日是吉林人，可以讲。试管老人来说，已与潘人讲好，送24块，明天可以放行。听之心安，谢老人。次早一来看毕，换船过海，老人扶我上船，据小车送到广福宫课堂看信容怪状，坐2居中，无人过问。My God. He again brought me medicine, which I drank, then changed my clothes, cleaned the ground, and sighed, saying, another guy took the medicine you were given yesterday. He would have dissected him even before breathing his last, meaning still alive. He would have opened his stomach while he's still alive. You are not fated to die. This must be because the Buddha is protecting you. When the doctor comes again at 9 o'clock, I will cough as a signal, and you have to pretend to be full of energy. When the doctor came and saw me alive, he pointed his finger at me, smiled, and left. When asked why the doctor smiled, the old man said, because you are not fated to die. I told him Upasaka Gao had given me some money, asked him to give some of it to the doctor to set me free. I promptly took out $40, which I handed over to him as the ransom money, and another $20 as a present for what he had done for me. He replied, I must not take your money. Today, the doctor will be a European. It says somebody with red hair. That's what it says. The doctor will have red hair. Today, the doctor will be a redhead. This cannot be arranged. Tomorrow, the doctor will be a Karen, and it can be arranged, meaning from Southeast Asia. That evening, he called again and said, I've arranged for you with the Karen doctor. Have given him the $24. You'll be released tomorrow. I was thus reassured, and I thanked the old man. Amin, right? Whew, but he's not out of danger yet. The next morning, the doctor came. After his visit, a boat was called to take me across the bay. I was helped on board by the old man. Reaching the opposite shore, a vehicle was hired to take me to Guangfu Hall, where the monk in charge of guests left me unattended and waiting for 2 full hours because of my disorderly appearance. Man, oh man. "不禁倍感焦急，喜不死于一成人之手，抑郁于抑郁人之手，而被之客僧之不知赤子也。最后一劳而出，既觉空首座。我称弟子某甲顶礼。拜不已不能起，老者扶其坐，曰：高居士已来殿20多日，不知消息。老和尚与大众都急，你怎么弄成这样子？此时老少聚满一堂，百川县城，一世生春矣。咦！未几，妙老和尚感句曰： 天天望你消息，怕你遭险。我欲回民修贵山，听说你来，故在此矣。这在此后。我曰：弟子罪过，数世一番经历，老人及大众尽喜，合掌念佛，同回极乐寺。老人令服药，我曰：既已到家，妄念顿歇，降息数日，便好了。后老人见我没静坐数日，戒曰：南洋天气炎热，与内地不同，久坐空什么字觉身，色身，我不觉也。老人曰：你在此讲一部《法华经》，结缘。我即回国。你后经毕，勿先回闽 ，right 上海，来鼓山一转。我有事与你说也。送老人上船后，开讲，皈依者数百人，马六家亦住济护法，请到青云亭讲药师经。选到吉隆坡，叶佛、右皇、晕幡居士等，请至灵山寺讲楞伽经，在各府讲经毕，前后皈依者万余人。OK， 抱歉哈，我的中文念得很不行。Sorry for my broken Chinese there. I could not help having mixed feelings, both sad and glad at once. Glad because I had just escaped from death, and sad because of the irresponsible attitude of the director of guests. Finally, an old monk, whom I later knew to be the head monk, called Jue Kong, came, and I said to him, I am disciple so-and-so. He bowed, touching my head to the floor. Touching his head to the floor? As I was too weak to get up, he helped me up and sat me on a chair and said, Upasika Gao sent us a telegram as notice of your impending arrival, but we heard nothing from you for over 20 days, it says. So, yeah, okay. The Venerable Abbot and the whole community have been worried about you. How did you come to be in this condition? That sentence carries a lot. He's looking at Master Empty Cloud and thinking, this guy is more dead than alive. Without further ado, young and old monks crowded into the hall, instantly transforming the atmosphere to something like a warm home in springtime. Shortly after, the old Abbot Miaolian came and said, day after day, I've been waiting for news of you. I've been apprehensive you might be in some danger. I wanted to return to Fujian to repair the Guishan Monastery, but having heard you were coming, I waited for you here. So they all, because he was out on the mountain being in quarantine, and then he was just on his back sick, being poisoned to death, of course he wasn't able to get them word. After a long chat, I said, this is my fault. And you can't. In Japanese, you say, kochira koso. Then I related my experience. The old abbot, the monks, were impressed and pleaded to hear my story in full. They want the details. They then put their palms together in salute. That's not what it says. It says they recited the Buddha's name. And we all returned to the Jile Monastery. The old abbot urged me to take some medicine, but I said, as I returned home, all my false thoughts have stopped. I'll be okay after a few days' rest. Later, when he noticed that I sat for several consecutive days whenever I meditated, he warned me, the weather here in Nanyang is hot and is different from China. I'm afraid if you sit long, it's going to hurt your health. However, I didn't feel anything was wrong in my meditation. the old master said, why don't you explain the Lotus Sutra to create some wholesome affinities here? I'm returning to China. After you explain the sutra, do not go back to Yunnan province, but go to Gushan, as I have something to tell you there. I accompanied the old abbot to the ship, returned to the monastery, and began explaining the sutra. A few hundred people took refuge. The Dharma protectors at Malacca invited me to expound Medicine Buddha Sutra in Qingyunting. I then went to Kuala Lumpur. Upasaka Ye Fuyu and Wang Yufan asked me to explain the Lengqie Jing at Lingshan Monastery. In all the cities of Malaysia where I explained sutras, 10,000 people became my disciples. Oh me. So, those of you listening from Malaysia, you should be very interested to realize that Master Empty Cloud visited. Now, in Penang, maybe not so happy. That's kind of a sad story. He nearly got poisoned to death. But coming down to Malacca, which follows the coast, he got on a boat. He says he was at Qingyun Temple. Qingyun Temple was our first stop, second stop in following Master Hua to Malaysia. Did 3 steps, 1 bow there. Saw the Bukhan Chu Guanyin Pusa image. There's a wonderful special image there. Magical miracles about it. It's a very old-fashioned Qingyun Ting. It was, the monk in charge was Master Jinming, who came to City of 10,000 Buddhas and was assistant chancellor of the monastery at one point, of the university at one point. Lifelong educator, very important monk, and a dear, close Dharma friend of Shifu's. Then Kuala Lumpur, where he explained the Lengqie Jing. Now, don't you wish we had a recording of Medicine Buddha Sutra, Lankavatara Sutra, the Lotus Sutra? That would be so wonderful. Unfortunately, this was before the days of digital recordings or acetate reel-to-reel recordings. They didn't have them. So we don't know what Master Empty Cloud's voice sounds like. In fact, there are no records of sutras that he lectured on in print either. There were some, but the manuscripts were out in Yan'an and were destroyed with the Civil War. So we don't have, the only thing we have left of Master Empty Cloud's actual words are his Chanqi Kaishi. There is a Yu Lu. Usually it's bundled together with his Nianpu, but it's, it's brief, and it's all about Chan. So we should recognize that when we have every word that Shifu spoke was recorded from the beginning of his lectures at Buddhist Lecture Hall on, understand how rare and special it is to have them, and what incredible blessings we have to be able to not only read the words, but to listen to Shifu's voice speaking those texts, because there's something just magical about when Shifu's vows. He says, whoever hears my voice, hears my name, or sees my face, will make the Bodhi resolve and will ultimately become a Buddha. So if only Master Empty Cloud, he entered Nirvana in 1959, Shifu a decade later started to record his voice. Maybe Shifu insisted, Master Hua insisted on using any technological tool that would help the Dharma survive. Probably in part because he knew that Master Empty Cloud's lectures and Dharma talks were destroyed. So, yes, indeed. So, what do you all think? I mean, right? Here's this extraordinary Buddhist monk who just barely escaped being dissected alive. And of 1,000 people on board a ship, was the last one left. And he was already sick at the time, having come along with dysentery. And yet, here was this old gentleman. It's not said or hinted that the old man from Quanzhou was maybe Wanshu again, but his saving of Master Empty Cloud's life is just couldn't be more clear. So who was that old gentleman who coughed and brought medicine and told him, warned him about the doctor and the evil plans? Hui. Also, Master Empty Cloud has just this remarkable strength. From the time he was a young man out in the mountains, running, they said his eyes gave off this uncanny light. His hair was long and his beard was long, and people who saw him thought he might be an immortal or some sort of a rishi out in the mountains, or a ghost or a spirit, because he describes his state at the time as, when he walked, it was more like he was in the air. It's more like he was flying. He didn't have to eat. He didn't have to sleep. And a monk came along and said, you got to stop this, or else you're going to just preserve your own body, but you have no discipline in your mind whatsoever, no cultivation. This is just the path of the immortals. He said, what do you want to save your stinking body for? That's no good. That's no help to anybody. So it was that kind of setting him straight that woke up the young Master Empty Cloud when he was living the life of a mountain hermit, and yet even though he woke up and came down to the monastery, learned the Dharma, established virtue and blessings, still the strength that he had established as a young man stayed with him his whole life. So even when poisoned by some evil, who was that? The doctor. Oh, he's supervised a lot of medical students. He's just looking for cadavers, right? Yeah, great. Well, don't pick on monks. So, but facing that kind of incredible crisis, Master Empty Cloud was still able to make it through and come out the other end stronger than before. Okay, everybody, thank you all for joining. There's almost 100 of us here today. Appreciate it. Please spread the word that we are back. We're going to be explaining further into Master Empty Cloud's life every week. We'll be back here and hope that you'll be with us for the drama. Also, tomorrow night we'll be at the Berkeley Monastery, as always. Saturday night lecture. Let's get the community rallied out there. Got some new music to share and some stories. Here's my class at the Swananoa Gathering. People who've come to learn about mindfulness and performance. Thanks to Jerry for taking this remarkable photo. All right. Here we go. Time to dedicate the merit. Let's do it. Here we are. We'll do it with the Medicine Buddha mantra tonight. You make a wish. Say thank you for not having our teacher's life cut off at age 56, right? Age 60. Om Namo Bhagavate Saja Guru Madhurya Prabhavarajaya Tathagata Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tathagata Pasaji 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 Samgati Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Saja Guru Madhurya Prabhavarajaya Tathagata Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tathagata Saji, Saji, Samgati Swaha. One more time. Bhagavate Saja Guru Madhurya Prabhavarajaya Tathagata Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Sadyata. Oh, last chance, here we go. Saji, Saji, Saja, Samgati Swaha. You want to join me, making 3 half bows? Here we go. First bow, second bow, third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Thank you to the translators in Australia and in California for helping my words go further. Really deeply appreciate that. We will see you all next week. If you want to join us tomorrow night for the Avatamsaka lecture, please do. We'll see you then. Amitofo, everybody. Bye now.